The Bears are going to win this game.
I'll take the
or
Bears.
they're not.
Bears plus 3.5, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I love me some Bears. I might be a Bears fan.
I might buy the Ravens to the 4, but you think the Ravens are going to win the game, 4.5. All right, so Steve, thank you. I had this whole guys, the locks have been fun. I don't think they fully reflect my gambling prowess. The whole thing, you guys are lucky. Macon just looks at survivor pools and fades whatever the most public pick is, and it's been fun. But actually, we get to keep going.
Yeah.
Here's another piece of news that came out today. Pro Bowl rosters were released. I don't want to go through the rosters and be like, I don't know why that guy made it, because that's haterade, as Nate would say. That's hate. So we're going to talk about the guys that we think probably should get, because when you talk about the Pro Bowl, and some guys that make it, they deserve it. You know, some guys that make it, they get in because of the fans, and you know it's kind of an imperfect process. But I think there's some guys who deserve recognition as Pro Bowl caliber players. The coin just didn't flip their way. There's a guy that probably was never going to make a Pro Bowl in Tennessee. His name's Autry. He's a defensive lineman that moves up and down the line. He's kind of a tweener. He had 11.5 sacks this year. I've always liked his game. He was never going to go to Hawaii or wherever the fuck it is, Orlando. But I just wanted to shout him out. He had a great year. He's a Highsmith up in Pittsburgh. I'm a big fan of his.
Great.
Got to connect with him earlier this year. Got to know his dad on Twitter a little bit. I think people discount how important he is to that defense and what a good rusher he is. He had double digits. He's been a real force.
He came back when he was hurt. I forgot who they played that week, but he was a huge
monster.
He made a huge impact.
Monster impact.
Yeah.
TJ Edwards, linebacker, Chicago, guy who had a great season, ton of production out of TJ, and a lot of guys on that defense. Jaquan Brisker, another dude back there. You mentioned Jalen Johnson earlier. A number of guys. If Montez Sweat had played the way that he did at the end of the season, throughout the season, he'd be an all-pro.
He made it.
But he'd be an all-pro.
Yeah. And I don't know when that stuff comes out, but he had more sacks than Bosa. He had more sacks than he had more sacks than Hutch, who made it. I actually think when you look at the NFC, he had the best year of any of the defensive ends. And I also think it's interesting looking at Washington. I've been saying this for 3 years. That's the best guy on their group. On the edge, and some people laugh me off the stage when I say that, but it played out even after the trade between the Niners and Chase. And by the way, Chase Young, second in Pro Bowl voting. I'm not down in the guy because I've sung his praises, but he's got 6.5 sacks. This is a fan thing at some point, and so I just want to give the guys some love that didn't get in. L'Jarius Sneed, Kyle.
How about Billings in Chicago, defensive tackle? L'Jarius Sneed, obviously great. We always sing his praises, but a guy we haven't mentioned is Billings, and he's going to be
a lot of it seems like name recognition. Like Justin Tucker got in even though he had his worst year.
And Justin might tell you that.
Yeah.
And it's name recognition, it's team, it's market, but also I was talking to Fred Taylor because he was inside the NFL, and on a totally different scale, this guy's been waiting to get in the Hall of Fame, and he wasn't angry at all, but he's like, I played in a market where and there were some Pro Bowls I didn't make because of that market. And so, I look at JOK, and he gets kind of overshadowed in Cleveland. I thought he had an incredible year. The backer there. Amon-Ra didn't go. Winfield didn't go. His dad's on Twitter what the fuck? But there's
Buda Baker had no stats.
Buda Baker had no stats, and we love Buda Baker.
He's very.
I don't
know Buda Baker.
I don't know Buda Baker, but I would say Winfield.
I
thought deserved to go. You know him in real life?
threw him one time 8 yards.
Oh, well, do you know the story about what happened here?
No.
So one time Buda Baker had a chance at a pick six, and he got caught.
By DK.
And after the game, I was kind of oh man, Buda Baker's never had a pick six, but I said he's never scored a touchdown like that. He always gets hawked, and I feel bad for him. And game of telephone, Cardinals fans telling Buda that I'm talking shit about Buda, and Buda's like, Chris Long doesn't know Buda Baker. And so anyways, I'm like, whoa. It's all caps. I reach out to Buda on Instagram, and I'm like, dude, ironically, I think you're an amazing player. You're one of my favorites to watch. Kind of got lost in translation there. I was just talking about the pick sixes.
I chucked him.
And I said, Buddha, like, when you get a pick six, you got to come on the show. And he was like, totally cool, bro. I appreciate it. I figured it was something like that. And so I don't know Buddha Baker, but I do think Antoine Winfield.
Place.
Huh?
It was we ran toss to the right. He happened to be there.
He was in the
No,
wrong
we
part
get
of
it, Kyle. We get it. You chucked him.
You chucked him. You don't want him to say Kyle Long doesn't know
I
Buddha
love
Baker.
when little guys come in the box, though.
Yeah.
Then they get to meet us.
Yeah, it's true, especially with the new rules.
Yeah.
If you'd have played with the new rules.
What do you mean?
They can't cut you.
Oh, yeah, they can't cut me.
Yeah.
That's one less thing to worry about.
So
The new rules. I'm not thinking about rules ever.
I want to talk about we talk, I know you're not. We talk about Pro Bowl.
What?
As we're getting into these previews, I just want to mention some incentives. So we're sending some positive juju out to some guys who can make a lot of money this week. Incentives, Week 18 is one of my favorite subplots in the NFL. For offensive linemen, it's mostly like play time or sacks allowed or something like that. But for us,
It's like, are you healthy?
yes, the guy's healthy. Give
That's
him
good.
Extra,
You get paid more.
Give him some cheeseburger.
Uh-huh.
Okay, like I've been in two scenarios where, and I've talked about them on this pod, the end of my New England run, and so forgive me if you've heard this, but for people who haven't, end of my New England run, I'm a rotational guy there, but I'm playing a lot of snaps. I had like over 500 snaps, and, it's the last week of the year, and I'm like, how do they do things here? Because I got like 25 more plays and I make $250,000. And I'm like, Bill, he's a savvy businessman. Like, they're not going to let me play that long. And I think I hit like 28 plays on the dot. They kept me in. I got my incentive. So thank you, Bill. You're the man. And then the other one was my rookie deal. I think I had like a 7-figure. You're going to look at some of these 7-figure bonuses for one more sack. I had 7.5 on the season. It was like year 3 for me. And we're playing San Francisco. It's Christmas. And in the fourth quarter with less than 2 minutes to go, I beat Anthony Davis, take the ball off Alex Smith. We win the game, and I'm on the ground going like this. And people are like, man, like, what a play. You're really happy. But I'm just thinking about
You're doing the money man.
I'm doing the money man sign. So these guys know.
Linemen are so funny.
We are funny. And D-Hop knows. D-Hop knows he needs 7 receptions for $250K. And this is the big whopper here. So if you want to play some D-Hop, over receiving, whatever, Matt was on this earlier, 49 yards for $1 million. He's going to be scratching and clawing. He's not running out of bounds for shit this weekend. D-Hop, I hope you get it. 2 touchdowns for another $250,000. OBJ, you're not going to get these, right? Because they're resting guys. But 5 receptions for $250K, 2 touchdowns for $250K, 185 yards for $750,000. And most importantly, this is the guy in Baltimore that I think could make an incentive or two this weekend. My boy Nelson Aguilar, 58 yards and $250,000 for him, 10 receptions for $250K. How many screens is he going to get this weekend? Maybe not enough.
I got an incentive story.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
Me and Badke were talking about this before the show about incentives, and he asked me the same thing you did. Incentives probably weren't that big for you. You're no lineman. I'm like, yeah, it's all about those big money guys. They want to throw touchdowns, catch touchdowns, sack quarterback.
Touchdowns.
And it got me thinking about, what did I think about this? And a lot of it was playing time, right? As an offensive lineman, percentage of snaps you're out there. If you make the Pro Bowl, if you make an all-pro,
Yeah.
if you play this many snaps in the playoffs, those are the things we deal with. But one thing we also deal with is D linemen, and D linemen have incentives.
Yes.
And I remember, I think it was week 17, back when week 17 was the last one. We were playing in Minnesota. I got a game ball for this game. It was after I broke my foot. I spent 8 weeks off, and I came back in. And in that game, Sheldon Richardson, I believe, needed a half a sack to get $1 million. And I didn't know that, but Dad did. And Dad let me know on like Wednesday, hey, just a heads up.
This guy's hungry.
This guy gets $1 million if he gets a sack or half a sack. So leave no doubt, like type deal. And I remember that was the only thing I was thinking about the whole fucking game was this guy wants to get $1 million so bad. And if it wasn't Sheldon, I think it was Sheldon in 2018.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't him,
Whoever it was.
didn't get his money.
Right. And the funniest thing is
we ran the ball for 180 yards in the
Yes.
first half, and we ran it 30 more times in the second half.
can you imagine, most people can't imagine this, but being the only thing between a 330-pound man and $1 million for 60 minutes?
Ugh.
Like, honestly, you should.
Those are the stakes. Those are the stakes for O-line. It
Yeah.
was a team game ball, by the way.
Yeah, well, you guys always get.
It was like
group.
the O-line gets the
You
game
guys
ball.
get the group
yeah,
game
yeah.
ball for sure.
Let me ask you this: is there in the locker room or in meetings, is there any kind of unwritten rule? You know, kind of like in baseball, if a guy's throwing a no-hitter, you kind of leave him alone. You don't talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any type of unwritten rules as far as like not talking about your incentives or
No.
it's not something you brought
Guys
up?
aren't
Guys
smart
are
enough
guys
in
are
the
talking.
NFL.
We're talking about it nonstop.
Guys in the NFL aren't smart enough.
We're talking about it nonstop. Now, the one thing, there's unwritten rules. I talked to DeForest Buckner about this, and this ties into money because these are sacks that eventually can trigger incentives. I asked DeForest Buckner, I said, and I asked a lot of D linemen this, what's the code on when you have a sack and somebody else gets it, one of your buddies? Because there's a whole process after the game where we turn these sacks in. We send them to the league, and what happens at the end of these deals is sometimes you get the sack and your buddy loses the sack. So in the D-line room, some of these are your best friends, right? Mm-hmm. I remember after we beat the Giants, I sacked Eli Manning. I come in the locker room and Holodi's sitting there. He's like, you might want to talk to Michael Bennett. And I'm like, what? He's like, he was just walking through here talking about turning that sack in.
Stop.
So I spent 2 hours trying to find Mike. Couldn't find him. He was doing some Michael Bennett bullshit.
He was at the league office.
He was like getting a pedicure somewhere in the building or something. And I'm like, Mike, what are we doing here? You know, like the whole thing. Luckily, I was able to keep the sack. There was another one where James Laurinaitis had a half a sack, and he wanted to turn it in. But I created it. And I went to James on Monday. I go, bro, like, what's your number? I'll pay you whatever you want for this half sack. You know, because a $5,000, $10,000 investment in half a sack turns into potentially $1 million if you have certain incentives.
Yeah.
So there's a whole kind of code with that for defensive linemen. And one guy who, if he gets one more sack this weekend, gets a $750,000 check, that's Jadeveon Clowney. This is my favorite.
His ass.
Yeah, this is my
that sack wasn't against that sack on Eli wasn't against Deal, was it?
No, it was
right,
like
good.
it was the night before Luke was
I get to
born.
give
So it
him
was
some
my
shit.
last year. But Slayton has one more catch for $2.5 million. I am going to be glued to that situation. Can you imagine if he drops the ball in the second half? He hadn't touched the ball yet. Drops the ball in his hands. The pressure on this cat to catch the ball this weekend is going to be immense. Baker gets $1 million if he gets in the playoffs, so there's a lot on the line there.
Whew, him and Mike Evans both going into last week, they were both 2 touchdowns away from career best.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this part of the season's fun. You get,
It is
you get
fun.
You get to really quantify how well people have done relative to their
And
previous.
Kyle left
crapshoot.
out a couple Pro Bowl snubs. Roshan Johnson in Chicago, Velus Jones down there in Chicago, Robert Tunyon in Chicago, Zach Pickens in Chicago.
That's
and
funny. I get what you're
Cairo
doing.
Santos in Chicago.
I see what you're doing. This
You
is
done?
funny. Mooney should have probably got a nod.
Yeah.
I got a Chicago O'Hare story. So Butch O'Hare, that's who it's named after. Butch O'Hare was a naval war hero.
Admiral?
Yeah, he was a pilot.
Okay.
Obviously,
Like
of
us.
planes. Correct. So
Like us.
his
Fellow
dad,
captain.
his dad was Al Capone's lawyer.
No way.
So his dad felt guilty about being a bad example for his kid and end up turning in Al Capone. And that's how Al Capone got caught with tax evasion
And
from
syphilis.
his lawyer. And Butch went on to be this hero and claims that, you know, he changed how he looked at his dad and all that stuff.
Wow, dude. O'Hare's a great airport.
Great airport.
That's where I first had airport sushi, which I think is actually an okay thing to have.
Do you know how Butch O'Hare perished?
Plane crash.
Plane crash.
Stop it, dude.
Well, yeah, it was in a war,
And
but
definitely
yeah.
not too soon.
I mean,
in a war. They were shooting
yeah,
at
it
him.
was in a war. He was getting shot at.
let's talk about a
Probably
war.
doing sick barrel rolls at the time.
Let's talk about the first war of Week 18, shall we, Meg?
Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers versus Jimmy Kimmel.
Okay.
Come on.
It almost took too long to bring that up.
Come on. Megan, what do you think about that? Number one,
If you said I was on a list with a bunch of child molesters, I'd sue your ass too.
Hell yeah.
Thank you. That's
And the funniest thing about all the Aaron Rodgers supporters, and I'm not making this an anti-Aaron thing because I think we've handled every Aaron thing pretty even-handedly, but like all the Aaron Rodgers supporters are like, it's just a joke, you pussy.
no.
I'm like, what kind of a joke is that? Like,
Hey, fuck the suing. I'm going to sue you. You sue me. Tell Jimmy Kimball, I'd be like, dude, hey, Aaron, I'm going to come kick your
I'm gonna
fucking
fuck
ass.
you up. I hope that Achilles feels
Let's
good.
go a little old school here, Jimmy.
Yeah.
And Stan, I'm going to sue you. No, I'm going to kick your fucking ass.
I'm gonna meet you on a private island.
Have-
I don't think that's
have
his
some
Whoop
style.
you like a redheaded stepchild.
Have some fucking balls.
They need to have a fight at an island.
Yeah.
Chris
Kimball
and Kyle,
Island.
do either of you anticipate being on the Epstein list when it's
No.
released?
No, but
earlier I
what-
texted somebody. I said, "Send me the list, please, because I can't find it." And then the guy responded and said, "Worried about something?" And I was like,
Dude, you know who's on that list? Cowboys on that
You know,
fucking list.
let me just say this. This is the last thing I'm going to say about the list.
Hey, meet me outside.
Yeah.
I won't see you.
See, I like
Outside.
that. There we
Yeah.
go.
Here's
This
the
is the
thing about
last.
the
This
list.
is the last.
Aiden-
I
on the
respect
list.
that.
Whatever you're looking forward to this football season, there's one thing that pairs well with every great moment, and that is an ice cold Miller Lite. Whether you're at the stadium playing fantasy football or watching the game at home or at the bar, Miller Lite is here to make your football season taste like Miller time. From kickoff to the clock runs out, you can't go wrong with a Miller Lite in your hand. It's the only light beer with a taste worthy of our national obsession. Because what's the point of having beer if it doesn't taste like beer? I go to Dirty Nelly's every weekend. Sometimes I'm prepping for the show at the bar on Saturday night, watching a little college football, getting ready to lay out our Miller Lite moments. I like to have an ice cold Miller Lite right next to me. And the folks at Dirty Nelly's, they know when I get there to have my ice cold Miller Lite. It's got only 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12-ounce serving with a smooth taste and a crisp, clean finish. You get the taste you crave without the calories. So this season, crack open a light beer that hits your taste buds so hard you feel it in your heart. Make it Miller time all season long. Get Miller Lite delivered right to your door. Visit MillerLite.com/greenlight. Or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs for 12 ounces.
Saturday night, Texans at Colts.
"Yes, now we're talking."
C.J. Stroud has averaged 275 passing yards per game and has had 6 games of 300 or more yards with 20 TDs and 5 interceptions. It screams Texans, and the line has moved that way. Why does it feel Colts?
This is the first time these two teams have been on prime time, right? Like this is the first time that we're all able to see them after the babies are down, I think.
Yeah, that's true for both
And
of them.
And it's great. I think it's great for the league. I mean, obviously the new quarterbacks, we've talked at length about young quarterbacks in the league. We're without one of the stars in this matchup, but still Shane Steichen has made this team
Minshew's a star in his
so
own
much
right.
fucking fun to watch. And Minshew, which is funny because the novelty of Minshew a few years ago, he was the reason to buy tickets. Now it's Shane Steichen's brain and this roster, but it's going against C.J. Stroud.
My favorite inside the NFL mic'd up moment that I saw this year so far was Gardner Minshew getting shit talked to him by Max Crosby, who on our show, I forgot when we asked Max who the flyest white guy is in the league when it came to the drip, as in the outfits, he, of course, said like Travis Kelce, and I'm like, I like Minshew's outfits. Like,
Yeah.
I'm getting to some of those outfits.
Little
and
ass boy.
He didn't really react. And then when they played last week, he called him a little ass boy the whole game. And the funniest shit was Minshew went over to the sideline and was like, "That Crosby's an angry dude, man." He goes, he just keeps calling me a little ass boy.
Stop.
And he goes, I said, "I might be little out here, but I'm not always little." you know what I'm saying? And the guys on the sideline are dying. But I think the biggest weapon that the Colts have is Shane Steichen. Like in that game, in that first game, they got out and jumped on these guys, and they've been as good as anybody in scoring touchdowns. The first drive of the football game, I think the start of this game is going to define how this game goes. And I think it's the rushers getting home. Like the Texans got close a lot in that first matchup. Since that point, they've gained a lot of notoriety up front, and that includes getting Will Anderson back last week. who had 2 sacks. And I want to take this moment to mention that it's clear to me that the NFL doesn't want my guy, Jalen Carter, to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I thought I had this thing locked up all year.
Who they got?
Well, the odds have tightened. Right now, I think Jalen's like a minus 300. And Will Anderson's now plus 400 or something
Plus
like
275.
Plus 275. Like I went to bed. They get this guy Seth
Part of the pussification of the Philadelphia Eagles, they're dragging their boy down. Right?
They're dragging their boy down because the NFL, number one, because of the racing thing, does not want him to win Defensive Rookie of the Year.
And because Dom is touching players.
And because Dom's touching players. And then also the fact the Eagles are no longer good, so they're applying this standard that's higher for the Eagles than it is for the Texans. The Texans are hot. Will Anderson got 2 sacks last week. Will Anderson's a really good player. I've done nothing but sing his praises this year. And people want to put up Jalen. This is how stupid this thing's got. Like Ari Miroff and one of these aggregator sites, I see the other day, they're like, Jalen Carter's stats this year with like 3 eyeball emojis. And he's got 6 sacks and 20-something tackles and you know, like this, that, and third. He's got a touchdown against Dallas. But to me, what it is the tape. This guy is dominant. I know I'm being selfish and saying he should win Defensive Rookie of the Year, but the truth is he's the best defensive rookie. You know, and you look at the stats, okay, Will's got 7. If he breathes on Minshew a lot this Saturday night, I'm afraid that they're going to give it to him. The other guy that they haven't even talked about is the guy in L.A. and Kobe Turner, who has 9 sacks as an interior lineman. He's got a really good inside move. He does play next to Donald. He's cleaned some stuff up.
He's got as many sacks as Aaron Donald did his rookie year.
You know, and so he wasn't.
Tells me enough right there.
He wasn't even on the ledger until like last week, and so I don't know what's going on with this award. But one thing to look at as a theme here is what's going to happen in that race. I lean Houston. I really do. I think with the quarterback they have, you trying on my tactical gloves.
These are fucking sick.
Yeah, they're sick. I lean Houston because in a game like this, I lean quarterback, and I wondered how C.J. Stroud would come off that concussion that took 2 weeks, you know, and it looked so bad for them, down all those guys against the Jets, but last week they looked really good. They obviously have injuries outside, but I still think they can win this game. It's going to be a lot of fun. I lean over for sure. It's like 47. And I think whoever wins this game obviously is going to be the biggest group of Titans fans in the world. And maybe my fly on the wall is locked up right now. It's this team throwing a party, watching, knowing they're in the playoffs, playing with house money as fans. And if Jacksonville loses to Tennessee on Sunday, in that situation, they win the division. And so, you know, like, I just cannot wait for that game Sunday. There's so much pressure on Jacksonville, Kyle. They have not played their best ball. They looked good with Beathard, but that was the Panthers. The defense played better. I just think Mike Vrabel's such a, you know, we talk about Vrabel spots. This is a Vrabel spot, man.
I told myself the last 2 times that Vrabel had Vrabel spots and they pissed down their leg that I'm done saying the phrase Vrabel spot.
Well, here's the deal, Kyle. You want to fade you want to fade a Vrabel spot if there's been like 3 in a row that have hit, but now 2 in a row
This
haven't
is a
hit.
Peterson point.
A Peterson point. Mm-hmm. Okay. I listen, I think the Titans have a great opportunity to play spoiler, and you know, like when you think about like the mental advantage a team has, Titans have the mental advantage here. I mean, they're playing with house money. They're not going anywhere, and Vrabel loves these situations. So looking forward to that game for sure.
All right, dog. But to Kyle's point, they have lost 7 of 9.
No question. How many have Jacksonville lost in their last 7?
4.
Since you guys are doing math.
5.
Okay, 5 of their last 7.
They've won 1 and W1 is their streak. Won in a row.
Yeah, but how many out of their last 7?
5 of their last 7.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. They've lost 4 of 5.
And so my point is there are 2 teams that are ailing and one team knows it and it's real. And the other team's just not very good, but I don't know that the Jags roster is that much better than the Titans roster. I do not. You know, the way it's played out with the injuries, and what are they getting, Kirk back?
The balls are back?
They're getting Kirk back, or who are they getting back?
He's off the IR. It's unclear if he's playing.
Yeah, okay, we'll see.
Nuts intact.
Let me mention a guy. 13 and a half sacks. Name's Josh Allen. First double-digit sack season since he was a rookie. 55 tackles, 27 pressures, 2 forced fumbles, and a pick. Nice year for that Josh Allen.
And a partridge and a pear.
I don't think he's going to the Pro Bowl, though. So, like he might not have gotten snubbed because I think Max should get in. Trey Hendrickson should have been like second in Pro Bowl voting. The year he had was unbelievable. And then in the AFC, you also had probably Myles Garrett, who was going to get in no matter what. So that's one of the situations where it's like Josh Allen was a Pro Bowler this year, but these guys were just so good, and so I feel for him.
A victory would give Miami its first AFC East title since 2008 and a top 2 AFC seed for the first time since 1992. Its first 12-win season since 1990, but they've slipped just a little bit since being 9-3 on December the 3rd with a 3-game lead over the Bills. Now it's tightened up. 1 game separates them. Winner gets the division.
I think there's 2 things right off the bat with this game. You talk about mental edges. I think the Bills have one. It depends on what happens in the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game, which is so interesting. That's earlier in the day. We talked about Kyle being flexed to Sunday night for Miami and the Bills. And
we lose that one. CBS loses that game.
That sucks because I would love to hear Romo talking about Josh, but we're going to get Sunday night, Josh Allen, and we know what's at stake for them. If Pittsburgh wins that game, we're going to talk about that in a minute, then they got to win or they don't get in, basically. And for the Dolphins, the range of possibilities are you go to Arrowhead to play that team you lost to at Germany, or you're going to be hosting a playoff game and winning a division. So it's for the division. It's for real playoff implications. You rarely see something like this that's for the division, and the stakes are so, like what could happen is such a difference for both teams. And I think Miami struggles in these spots. And I think Miami's proved that by when they played the best teams, when they played at night in prime time, when they played the Bills kind of owned them. The game they beat the Bills had a lot of guys down. Hey, listen, I'll make the same excuse for the Dolphins here if it turns out that the losses of Chubb, Howard, Mostert maybe, Waddle for sure, really make them non-competitive. Like these are real things.
There's too much there on the defensive side in Miami for me to get on board in any way for this team. And also, I see the house fire.
The house fire thing.
Tyreek, they said, by the way, this might have been one of those aggregate accounts, but they said it was a kid with a lighter.
So keep your lighters up high, everyone.
That's crazy. But I will say, Vic Fangio finding a way to get after Josh Allen, and we've seen in weeks past, even if you do have a green light, a green arrow, unobstructed path to the quarterback, getting Josh down is the big issue.
Yeah.
It's not getting to Josh all the time that's the issue. So I think that Aaron Kromer, his run game, we saw they tried to go a heavy, 2 weeks ago, they went heavy James Cook. They gave it to him 20-plus times, but he fumbled it twice.
Yeah.
Josh Allen doesn't have to do a ton to win these games. Give it to James Cook. You have to get in that rhythm going into the playoffs of being able to beat teams on the ground, sucking the life out of the play clock, the game clock, and then playing defense, getting after Tua, limiting their options. If Tyreek's not out there, if Jalen's going to be hurt, Tyreek's in a boot. I mean, the writing's on the wall for Miami. Go be who you're supposed to be, Buffalo, and let Josh be a freak on the big downs in the red area. You get an additional blocker with Josh with the ball in his hand. Do that. Keep it simple.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle, I don't think they need to do anything crazy. In fact, I think the last game plan could work for him this week. And I know that's a different Buffalo team that drug the Dolphins in Buffalo. But, they don't need Trey White to play the same game plan. In fact, I think Rasul Douglas was such a lifeline for them. He was a scheme fit. He's ball aware. He's a good dude. He's a good player. You can take away the flats and the edge. Cover 2, corners playing up. That's what they did the first game. And when you take away the edges and the flats with Miami, then they got to work certain areas of the field that maybe they're not as comfortable doing. And Tua can be a tick late. Also, you think about cover 2 and that increasingly big void if you play up, and that honey hole gets a lot bigger. They did that the first game with Waddle and Cheetah out there. There's one less guy. I would take that trade-off, losing Trey White and one of those receivers. I think that tilts Buffalo's way, especially with what they've been able to do to replace those guys. We asked why Howard didn't travel with Diggs the first game, and Diggs got after Kohu. Howard's not playing. Is Ramsey, with him being back? And that's another thing. I should say that. Ramsey's back. So you lose a corner. If you're Miami, you gain a corner. Same thing with Buffalo. They lost a corner. They gained a corner in a trade. But is Ramsey going to travel
Chris,
with
how
this?
much more communication is going on pre-snap if Ramsey's travel? Because let's say I'm playing linebacker on the other side of the field from Ramsey, and you're Ramsey.
Yeah.
Okay, Diggs goes in motion. Now you come trotting in behind him in motion across the offensive line of scrimmage. Now you're on my side. Now, not only does your location and responsibility change a little bit, mine does too.
Yeah.
Backy's at safety.
Communication, pre-snap.
So I feel like with all the guys that are working in and out of this roster, whether it's guys on the front line or guys on the back end, if Ramsey travels, they have to be so fucking dialed in on, okay, I'm coming over here. Are you good? Okay, you stay there.
Yeah.
Stay there. I'll meet
Reset,
you.
whatever.
Thank God I didn't have to do that part of it. And that's the easy part of it.
Yeah.
Now you got to go cover these bastards.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's tough, Kyle. And
react to the run.
You make a great point. I think if they do decide to do that, then the guys that are being depended upon have to talk. And by the way, Micah Hyde could get $250K with one more pick. Maybe he's the guy that seals the game. But I see this as being –
You are at home.
I see this as being an under game.
Which is nice.
The total's so high, Kyle. It's like the Dallas game. They got it up in the 50s. I think this is a game where 25, 26 points wins this game.
Cook should get 23 carries plus. And
he's got to take care of the ball.
No turnovers, man.
Yeah, that's here's the way Miami, because I've done this whole thing from it's running the football and running it inside, which is something they haven't done as well as running on the edges. It's taking care of the football for Tua. And I think Sean McDermott staying out of bad situations where I know he likes to bring pressure, but being precise, because I've seen situations where he'll dial up a great timely run blitz like some of the ones that he did against Dallas. I've also seen situations this year like the time he heated up Russell Wilson. They lost the game because of that. So, I think it's all that stuff. And we get to Baltimore and Pittsburgh, which is, of course, happening before this game, and we'll tell you everything you need to know about what's at stake Sunday night.
Mostert and Achane both dinged up this week for Miami.
Yeah.
Achane too, which is there's so many injuries.
It's going to be the Claypool game.
Dude, I just got done watching Claypool in Chicago early in the season. Get him.
Steelers are at the Ravens. This is the first game of the weekend, Saturday afternoon. Pittsburgh favored by 4 points. Total's 35.5. It'll be Tyler Huntley and company for Baltimore.
All I'm saying is, if you're Harbaugh, Kyle, and I know this doesn't work this way, but if you're you be John in this situation.
I am John Harbaugh.
Okay. If you're John Harbaugh, okay?
Can I be Jay Harbaugh?
You can be the dad. All right. Hey, Dad, what do I do? Dad, what do I do? I'll be Jim. Dad, what should John do? If the Steelers win the game, then you might not have to deal with the Bills. Should we just lose to the Steelers so there's a higher chance that the Bills don't get in?
We don't lose.
Yes.
Lose. But and sit all your guys down, son.
No,
but that's not a Harbaugh thing to
I
do.
don't agree with sitting down players at the end of the year.
We're on the other side of this. Kyle,
the fuck are you talking about, son?
Kyle, I'm looking. Hey, Dad.
Is he talking to me?
Yeah, Dad.
Yeah.
Dad, listen, Dad.
I will risk.
Dad.
I will go fuck you up.
Jack. Hey, Dad, Jack. Do you remember?
Yes.
Do you remember a couple years ago when John? You were getting ready to play Tennessee in 2 weeks, and you rested everybody, and then you look like dog shit against Ryan Tannehill, who you wouldn't draft over Justin Fields, because I did that exercise.
He's learned how to now deal with the sit-down week and bounce back.
There's so much momentum in
of
Baltimore.
rest.
And also, it's not a meaningless game. To your point, you can go and fucking take a piss on the Pittsburgh Squealers. If you're the Baltimore Ravens, this is your golden opportunity here.
So you're saying play those guys maybe a half?
I'd say go out there, play them, establish dominance early, and then go put them on the sideline.
And here's the
Go break their spirits by beating them with the backups. Tyler Huntley can do that.
I not only want to beat them with the backups, I want to beat the hell out of these guys.
Okay.
Pro Bowl snub Tyler Huntley.
So now, right.
Because Mason Rudolph's going to come out there slinging that thing. Since Mason Rudolph's been back, the Steelers are third in the NFL in EPA, and they have 0 turnovers.
Yeah.
This is a team that's not only against our starters or our backups. They could give you a run if the right version of the Steelers show up against your starters.
And if you're Mason Rudolph, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if you're going to go on this magical playoff run. If they play like they played against Cincy, they're kind of dangerous. But like what worries me about the Steelers is the backers and some of the injuries they've had on the back end. But Mason Rudolph wants to stay in the conversation next year, and he wants to stay in the conversation for other teams. And so there's a lot to play for
We're running
him.
out of seats.
And with Tyler Huntley, he's not the backup you want to see. He's won big spots for him. He's competed in some spots for them. He's played in games that mattered for them. Browning, the first game they played the Steelers was 16-10. Zappy beat the Steelers. DTR beat the Steelers. So, there's no foregone conclusion that Huntley's not a guy that can beat you. And so all I'm saying is I don't know what the motivations are. I know what they are for the Steelers. I don't know what they are for Baltimore. And Macon, you weren't here on Monday, but we pulled up stats because I know when Brandon Staley got Mike Williams hurt, I was the guy that was like, hey, I'm not just going to automatically, because an outcome went that way, blame Brandon Staley, because I really do think there's something to guys playing a little bit. And I thought when we were in New England, we had to, for a half, play because there were other things going on simultaneously. I thought it kept us sharper going into the playoffs. And when we pulled up the stats, Reed had these stats. Every team that played in the divisional round that had a bye, that rested their guys – since I don't know when it was, like
2005,
and like 19 and 30 was that
it was 11 and 14 if they rested, and then 30 and 10 if they did not.
So I'm not saying that,
that's all we're saying.
That's all I'm saying.
If they had secured they had all secured the bye in the final week of the regular season.
Yep, they'd also.
Those are staggering numbers.
They are staggering. I was staggered. I've been staggering all week, ever since I heard those numbers. But
you know what else is staggering? An object in motion stays in motion.
That's true,
and when
Kyle.
You stop an object, you got to expend extra energy that you may not have in week 20.
And you know what that leads me to is one more thing on
Nugenics.
One more thing on the Titans. Here's something interesting about the Titans. This goes back. I've been waiting to do this, and maybe one of these days I will. But if you were a Tennessee Titan, or say you were a Houston Texan, I'm looking at StubHub for this Tennessee game. You can buy a ticket in the upper row for $15. Now, that's no Carolina situation where they're giving them out like candy. But you're going to tell me these guys can't pull together and get 20,000 Houston fans to that stadium in the event they win? Fucking get some Greyhound buses and pack that thing.
The Rams were 3-6 at midseason. Since then, they have only lost an overtime shootout with the Ravens. Two of Sean McVay's most important players in offense, Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua. Sean said that they're going to allow Puka to set a rookie record, but pretty much everybody else is going to sit down. Same with the Niners for the most part.
Which is so interesting. And I actually have reason to believe that San Francisco is going to play some guys early. And I had heard that Stafford wasn't playing, and I rushed to the book. I got in the Niners a couple different ways. I kind of wonder what McVay's thinking is because of what we've talked about, but I tend to trust Sean because of the Matt Stafford thing. And on both ends of this thing, like the Niners might not play Purdy at all. They might not play him very long, and I actually think that's a good situation with Darnold because look at the NFC Championship game last year.
You need Darnold to be ready.
Darnold looks closer to being ready than most backups, and especially in that offense. So I don't have as much of an issue because that's an insurance policy that building that in actually would have done you good a year ago. What's McVay thinking with Stafford? Maybe like, hey, the fucking guy's old, and I have all the confidence in the world in him. I don't need him to get reps this week. The Carson Wentz thing is interesting. You know, that we're going to see Carson playing again.
Hopefully that'll be like his Baker Mayfield opportunity like last year.
It will, but it also says something really interesting to me, and that's this, that McVay's not worried about the 6 or the 7 seed.
So interesting. It's like he doesn't care about the difference between Dallas and Detroit.
Or maybe he likes a matchup better. I don't know. And this is the thing that goes through my head.
They went to Dallas in the middle of the year
They
and
got
lost
crushed,
43-20.
but they're a totally different
and
team.
You know, the very last thing any Detroit fan is going to want to see is Matt Stafford coming to town with the LA Rams.
Exactly. So I don't get what he's doing, but I trust him. And this will be an interesting one. I mean, like, there's case in point why it's hard to handicap these games this weekend.
I do think more Niners players will play. I think it's a classic Shanahan spot where Jordan Mason will run for 130 and 2 touchdowns, and it'll seem as though you can plug and play anybody in there. Niners are favored by 4, yeah?
Yep,
Is that
4.
the number?
It's hovering around 4.
4 with a total of 40.5. So it is very interesting because I think certainly everyone anticipates Dallas to beat Washington and get the 2 seed. We're doing a 3-pack of upset specials. Cowboys at Commanders. CeeDee Lamb, very good season. Mike McCarthy still doing everything he can to screw things up. We've given him his flowers. You can't hand a team 40 seconds like that, Mike. You can't take a timeout away from Brandon Aubrey like that, Mike. Mike screwed up the end of that game. Got lucky. Got bailed out. Cowboys Commanders.
I think the question here is because there's 3 teams in similar situations. One plays first, right? Detroit, Minnesota in the 1 p.m. slate. Detroit, Philly, Dallas. They all have something to play for, but they're all kind of watching the other games. I mean, like Detroit does not have the liberty of watching the other games. They're going to play their asses off. But I do think they're the one team out of these 3, and maybe that's not a hot take, that could lose a game here. Well, I mean, listen, what's the difference between this matchup and the matchup a couple weeks ago? It's at home for Detroit, but what's the difference?
The what happened a few days ago, I think.
Which could be good or bad, but the point is, like, you'll be sweating this game. I know you're going to give it out in locks later. I think you will sweat this game because Minnesota's still dangerous. They were able to move the ball with chunks at will at times in that game, and so, like, the secondary played better. You got Gardner Johnson coming back and the whole thing, but
CJGJ.
But this is a tough group, and, you know, they still have a chance to get in the playoffs. I just wonder, because of the way they played last week and putting Jaron Hall in that game, if they really want to go that bad. You know, like, so that's the one thing for me. CeeDee Lamb got after you last week, but the defense played a lot better. Detroit's not going to know what happens with Dallas and Philly. You're coming off that big meltdown. I do think it might be tight for a little bit. And Philly and New York, I think Philly plays guys, and I think they try to run them out of the building because they need that vibe going into the playoffs. So I think Philly wins the game. Dallas and Washington, because of the situation, you know, like I looked at last year, and it was kind of a similar deal where Dallas and Philly play at the same time, and Dallas is playing at Washington, and they need Philly to lose to, like, the Giants. It was exactly this. And it wasn't going to happen because Philly was actually good then. And I don't know how quickly they pulled away in that game, but Dallas ended up losing that game at Washington 26-6. And Dak did not play well. Okay, like it wasn't like he was not trying to play well. So I worry about Dallas on the road a little bit.
That's always a tough place to play, Washington.
Except fans of both teams are going to be rooting for Dallas. Like any Washington fan wants that second pick.
No question. And I think that's the wild card is like Washington really doesn't gain anything from winning. We're going to talk about it with New England later and that whole scenario. But there are 2 home games on the line here, so they got to come out hot. And the first game, I thought Washington had a quick game answer for them throughout a lot of the first half. They just couldn't finish. So who knows? Who knows, guys?
Philly hasn't won by more than 1 score since beating Miami the week before Halloween. NFC South. Bucs at Panthers. Falcons at Saints. Who's going to win the division, fellas?
I think it's going to be the New Orleans Saints. That's my bold prediction.
Spicy.
That's a bold prediction now. I definitely bet the Panthers to cover as soon as I heard Baker Mayfield's got a rib and he wasn't practicing during the week. I think the Panthers, the Thurs, can cover. I don't know if they can win, but if I had to go out on a limb.
What's the line?
The line was like 6 when I got it.
Thurs.
The Thurs could hang in there in this game.
They played them tough last time they played. They had a lead, right? They had a lead.
Yeah, dude.
Tampa Bay ended up coming back in that game, I believe.
It's so easy to
some Mike Evans magic.
It's so easy to get out over your skis, and I've done it with the Bucs, and I think they're a good team. But like, this is a tough little spot, and you know, like, there was a situation a couple years ago where the Colts got they had to play the Jags the end of the season. I think it was the Urban Meyer year. I'm pretty sure. The Colts, they got hot. I think that might have been the Carson Wentz year in Indy, but I don't remember exactly. So correct me in the comments. But the Colts got hot. They needed to beat the Jags, one of the worst teams in the league, to get in the playoffs, and they didn't. And Carolina has no reason to lose in this situation. And, like the last 4 games the Bucs played Carolina, there were 3 straight wins from the Bucs by combined 55 points. And then Carolina benched Darnold and Mayfield, started P.J. Walker, and they beat Brady 21-3. So, nothing feels safe if you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. I got that from the Bucs Reddit. So, I totally empathize with you guys down there in Tampa. You have a really lovable sense of hey, shit could go wrong. I like that in fan bases. I don't know if it goes wrong, but here are the things that have to be good for you. The interior had a rough game last week. I think Derek Brown's been really good this year. You got to be good there. Couldn't get the run game going. And I think from a storyline perspective, this could be it for Mike Evans in Tampa. I hope it is, because I hope he's a Kansas City Chief next year.
Wow. That would be so much fun to watch, those two guys who would be so in lockstep from day one because they're such pros.
Pros, man.
Can you imagine?
Couple pros.
Can you imagine?
Oh, I can, because I've been thinking about it. I can't. So I don't know. I don't think for sure that New Orleans wins the division, but I think they're going to win this game. I mean, it comes down to who do you trust, right?
I trust Tampa Bay. I trust Baker Mayfield to win that game. Easy. They'll cover.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay.
Ain't no problem.
Ain't no problem.
And then obviously I've got New Orleans because I just don't trust Atlanta.
Well, that's the thing, man. We said this with Atlanta when they played Indy. I was like, well, who do you trust? Do you trust Shane Steichen or Arthur Smith right now? And right now, I guess the question would be, do you trust Smith or Carmichael? The offensive play callers of these two teams. And I'm not sure what the answer there. Do you trust Heineke or do you trust Carr? I think the guys outside in New Orleans are pretty good. And I think at times they've played really well. The second half of the season, there have been some flashes. So if you got to trust a team in a big spot, there are guys on this team that have been in the playoffs. There were guys on this team that were on the field for that bad call where they were close to going to the Super Bowl. There were guys on this team that have been there and done that. So I kind of like New Orleans here.
If Atlanta shits the bed, is that Arthur Smith's last game?
It's got to be.
Man, and early in the season, they were like, yeah, he's safe for next year. But, I mean, it can always get out there.
He was preseason coach of the year, odds-on favorite.
And late in the year, when they said that, Kyle, it almost felt like it was the conditional thing that was built in was like, you got to win your division. And it was almost like a foregone conclusion at one point that they were going to be the hot team and they were playing better than New Orleans. They were playing better than the Bucs, and now here they are.
The hot team. They were the only palatable team.
They were the lukewarm team.
Yeah.
If you can get lukewarm in the NFC South,
Room temp.
If you can get room temp,
games that
Derek Carr's 10 of his last 13 on third down, which may or may not be true, but I did read it.
That's actually a good stat.
That's a good stat, Meg.
Way to go, Meg. He's hot on third down.
Thanks, guys. Hey, 5 games, grab bag. Where you want to go? Seahawks at Cardinals. Seattle Seahawks are favored by 2.5 points.
What does Seattle need to get in? It's like a million things. I mean, you don't have to tell me now. I'll try to.
The Packers to lose.
I'm going Arizona.
So Packers lose, they get in. It's that simple.
If they also
win.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should be talking about this in the NFC as something that's legit. And maybe the question is, if you're in the NFC, who would you rather see in, the Packers or the Seahawks? I'd probably rather see the Seahawks in.
I'd rather see Jordan Love.
No.
I don't know that they win the game,
beat.
though. Kyler's been playing great.
Dude, this team's tough. They're fucking up a lot of people's Sundays. They're going to fuck up this team's season possibly. And, I think for Seattle – I tried to look at guys that it might be their last game. Bobby Wagner, he's a UFA this year. Like, he had this second chapter in Seattle.
No, he's a FA, not a UDFA.
No, he's a
FA.
He's a UFA, Kyle. He's what's the word?
Unrestricted
free agent. I can't get it because I'm
undrafted.
thinking about UFA. He's an unrestricted free agent, so he can go anywhere after this year. He says he's not done playing, but is it going to be Seattle? Jason Peters is 41 years old. He's still playing offensive tackle.
His Madden rating is in the low 70s.
That's okay. lot of guys work their whole lives to get a 70-something Madden rating.
He's
You know
been
what
a
I mean?
90.
He's been a 98,
It'd
90.
be like if Trent were in Washington or in Jacksonville next year and he was a 71.
Well, it'd be like add another 10 years too. I mean,
7 years.
Like it's crazy to me that this guy's played this long, and like I know a lot of Eagles fans when he went down to Dallas were like, he's dead to me. I'm like, he's not dead to me. I love Jason Peters, and Jason Peters is one of the best teammates and love football, and that's part of the reason why he's still playing. I know, and so it's hard to kick that habit. Is this going to be the last time we see Big JP?
Oh.
A lot of people have forgotten about JP. I haven't forgotten about JP.
Legend.
Absolute legend, and it's amazing for the Cardinals how Kyler has quieted the talk in some areas because number one, they were tanking. Number two, Kyler was trade bait. And you were like, yeah, it's probably not a tradable asset. And now he's back, and
Looks healthy.
if a team's horny enough, like they'd have to pay part of that contract. But he's played good.
Yeah, he'll win you some ball games.
Kyler Murray or Trevor Lawrence? You could take one right now.
Kyler Murray now.
Kyler Murray. Mm-hmm. Somebody's mad at me right now. Listening,
You have to practice so much more as a defense. You have to prepare for so much more when you're playing Kyler Murray.
Here's the problem with Trevor Lawrence, and a lot of it's going to come up on Sunday. This is a big spot for him. The turnovers have been bad. They've been as bad as anybody in the league, and I've seen 1 year that's been really good and 2 that have been up and down, and 1 was a train wreck, but I blame that on Urban.
Yep.
So I'm not saying either guy's Joe Montana, but I kind of like what Kyler showed me down the stretch
He's
here.
growing up.
Yeah, hopefully.
Not vertically, though.
Not vertically. That's over. What's the next one?
Denver at Las Vegas.
Guys, a lot of times you see these quarterback farewell tours. You Big Ben, Brady retires, he unretires. Everybody's all emotional. And I'm not hearing any emotion for Brian Hoyer. Okay, he's like 38 years old. He's
been
popped up
everywhere.
in a million spots. Is this it for Brian Hoyer? Is he going to walk off the field and grab a clipboard and be a great OC for somebody or a quarterback whisperer? Like, I got a lot of respect for Brian
I'll say
Hoyer.
this about Hoyer.
Yeah.
He's got one of the quickest releases I've ever seen.
Really?
Yes. When he was on the Bears, he was the only Bears quarterback to throw for 300. It was like 3 games in a row. I think he threw for 400 one game. He was the first Bears quarterback ever to do that.
Well, you were there.
Yeah.
I feel like I should remember that, but there were a lot of quarterbacks.
McCown broke a record.
Jim Miller?
and then-
Jim Miller didn't?
No, McCown broke the
Jim Miller.
record in 2014 against the Packers. Remember the Alshon Jeffrey catch in the corner of the
Yeah.
end zone?
Yeah.
And then Hoyer came in like 2016 or 17 and broke all the records.
Was Hoyer cool?
Good guy, but it was obvious that he was like
He's
such a vet. He was Brady's backup.
yes. That's how he works.
Like I couldn't even fuck with him. Like I fucked with everybody in the
Yeah.
locker room, and I would just avoid
Yeah.
fucking with Hoyer because he was on a mission.
I want to shout out Brandon Bolden, who, probably not getting talked about a lot this week or at all this year. I mean, he scored a touchdown against the Chargers. He was a teammate of mine in New England, a great teammate, and a guy who carved out an incredible career, on special teams and playing some offense. And, like for running backs to last that long, it's no – I mean, he's had to get down and dirty to make some of those years happen. And he's playing for the Raiders. He's in his 30s. Like, is it for a guy like that? I know people at home are like, who the fuck cares? But Josh Jacobs is UFA, as you know, an UFA. Like he might be done there. Devontae Adams, should he be playing? If you're going to trade him next year, and that's like what like maybe you don't play him this week. There's nothing that guy needs to prove, and you run the risk. Also, we talked about the Bears earlier, Kyle, and the Bears-Packers and what's on the line in that game. Why is Justin Fields playing?
Yeah.
Oh,
Right?
because hey,
Let Bajent go.
I thought I was gonna be the contrarian with that question, but it's gonna be immediately shut down by its hate week, and Justin Fields needs to see as many live reps as possible. Yeah,
I've asked 10 people the question. Nobody's had an answer.
You got to play
I
him.
just gave you an
It's the
answer.
last game of the
It
season.
doesn't matter.
The last game of the season. You play him.
Bears Packers, man.
That is, but
the
to me,
Packers.
and I agree that might be the way things go, but ideally, is it the way things should go?
No.
With everything on the table. Okay. The last thing is the rumors, man, because I think this is Antonio Pierce's job, but there are rumors that Harbaugh has connections with Davis. Man, if you hire anybody but Antonio Pierce next year, he better be the Caleb Williams of coaches. Okay, because you already did this with Rich Bisaccia. You can't do it again, man. Nobody's
Mark
going to be
Davis
watching
knows
this game.
that. He's the first one to tell you that. He said, I fucked up.
Yeah.
The last time around, I will not fuck this one up.
Broncos 2-0 since being mean to Russell Wilson. Okay, next game.
Thuggish
Okay,
activities work.
Next game.
Brian Hoyer's first name is Axel.
You know who was a thug? Fucking O'Hare's dad.
Yeah, Butch's dad.
He made it right.
There's
though.
still hope for Sean Payton.
He made it right.
Okay, Chargers.
The Chiefs are at the Chargers.
Yep.
Be a nice trip to Los Angeles.
Here's what's fun about this game. I'll tell you a reason to watch this game. Giff Smith could beat Andy Reid. He could have that on his wall the rest of his life. Oh, were they playing everybody?
It's like PJ.
Don't worry
Walker
about it.
Tom.
What?
It's like PJ Walker beating Brady in the
Exactly. Like, this is special stuff. I can remember when PJ beat Brady, and we talked about this.
I'll never forget.
He should talk about this the rest of his life.
Does he give himself the game ball if he beats?
He
Andy
should.
Reid?
Would that be legendary? If there's a lot of guys here but it's me, guys, and you blew that game against Buffalo. We should have won that game. But that's fun for me. And for the Chiefs, I think when you talk about resting people, I cannot argue with resting Mahomes, but I do feel some kind of way about resting most of the guys on offense. I do not think it would be wise not to get these guys some work in a scenario that means nothing.
You rest Mahomes. You rest Kelsey.
Maybe you rest Kelsey, but
You rest Pacheco.
all those other motherfuckers
The guys, other than that, they're going.
were throwing the ball a million times.
Yes.
And the offensive line's got to protect and look good doing it. And
And they're going to practice their nuts off all week. I
And
know
he-
that
and-
Andy's going to do that.
And here's it's kind of like the Mike Evans thing. This could be Keenan Allen's last game as a Charger. That guy's been special there and done everything right. And when I think about those two guys, I think about not only when you think about wide receivers as a lineman, you're always like, divas, like the whole thing. Those guys I wish they were D linemen. They they got that attitude. They're great teammates. They say all the right things. They do all the right things. They're big targets, and they've lasted a long time in this league playing at a high level. I want to see them both escape next year.
Yeah, this is probably the last meaningless Kansas City Los Angeles Chargers game we're going to see in quite
In quite a while,
because
Kyle.
The Chargers are going to get a great coach, I'm sure of it. And obviously they got Justin Herbert. We're going to be looking at Mahomes and Herbert. We're going to be looking at maybe Harbaugh versus Reed. We're going to be looking at maybe Belichick versus Reed. These are great matchups. And Reed's not going to be in the league forever, so soak it up. You get a bye week on the meaningful Chiefs-Chargers, but next year it's on.
Next year. Chargers might win one.
Browns are at the Bengals. Bengals favored by 7 points. The Browns have signed Jeff Driscoll this week to play quarterback for some reason.
Guy's got a big old ass.
I mean, what? Yeah.
We make fun of Ryan Clark's ass on Inside the NFL because he's got pants that ride up his calves because his ass is just he can't, when he sits down he almost falls over.
Oh,
Yeah, Ryan Clark's got nothing on Jeff Driscoll.
Jeff Driscoll is thick, as well as Jacoby Brissett,
Oh, he's thick too.
also very thick.
They might just if Driscoll
Less thick, but don't beat me up.
Okay, anyways.
Ken Griffey Jr. has.
So Jeff Driscoll is going to play quarterback for the Browns, who are resting people, obviously. And I think from talking to my buddies on the Bengals throughout the year, I think this means a lot to them how they finish. I think they've got that kind of team. And so if you're a gambler, I look at Cincy, and this number's ballooned to 7. I teased them earlier this week with a couple other teams, and I should have just took it at 5, but it's at 7. This game means nothing but this could be T. Higgins' last game in Cincy. It could be Boyd's last game in Cincy. It could be DJ Reader's last game in Cincy. Off the injury, he's up. So it's a little look into the future, and
Can the Bengals hold
It's
up?
a winning
on
season
Thursday?
or a losing season.
yeah.
9-8 or 8-9.
Yeah, that may in 18 years, Taylor could be the guy that's like, I haven't had a losing season in a long time. It starts now.
You got it. All right, your favorite game of the week, Chris?
Oh!
New York Jets at New England Patriots.
I put a sectional on the Pats. I'm the biggest Pats fan in the world this week. Not you fucking guys in Braintree got nothing on me.
Why?
Because I'm a big Bill fan, and if this is the last one, I want him to beat the dog shit out of the Jets. This is his favorite team to beat the dog shit out of. This is a spot where if Bill's leaving, he could pull. If Lovie Smith can do it, Bill can do it. He could be thinking, I'm going down to coach in D.C. for the Washington Commanders. Like, he is an inside man right now for all intents and purposes. He goes out and does what he needs to do, beats the Jets. I told you I'm going to pick it in locks in a little bit, but I cannot wait for this game. There are going to be games with playoff implications, and I'm going to be like, Reed, put this game on the big TV.
Could be Zach Wilson's last game too.
Well, on
Robert
the bench,
Saleh
yeah.
was
Anyways, here's the deal. It's Slater's last game.
Legend.
He's an absolute legend. He's one of the best teammates I've ever had. He's one of the best players I ever played with. You're going to tell me before the game, Robert Kraft comes down to Bill and is like, we got to lose this game, Bill. And Bill walks in the locker room and looks at Matthew Slater. What's he going to do? He's going to go out and beat these guys. So, and this is a funny deal that, a lot of people are speculating this week that it's going to come down to a coin toss. It's not. That's fake news. So, there'd have to be 20 scenarios, basically that all tie for you to hit a coin toss. They're not going to do it. If you're a Pats fan and you want the number one pick, you got to lose, and here's who you should be rooting for, because there are so many scenarios. I'll try to simplify it as much as I can for you. You should be rooting for the Falcons. I can't tell you why. You should be rooting for the Ravens. I can't tell you why. Okay? But could you imagine if the Falcons, who are on the ass end of 28-3, are the team that delivers the New England Patriots the next generational quarterback by winning the lowly NFC South, or just winning a game for no reason? You can't make this shit up. I love football. I love football week 18.
This is crazy. My brain is not big enough for this conversation.
It's okay. It's okay. So with that having been said, we have covered all the week 18 scenarios. I think we've hit the incentives. We've hit the previews. We're about to get into Stanford Steve. He's going to tell us a little bit about the Rose Bowl. Kyle, what a place.
The Rose Bowl is the best. It is the best. They should play the Super Bowl there. Like we talked about, they should build like they did at Soldier Field, where they retrofitted new suites on there. Chris said just put scaffolding up once a year. I say fuck it. Just hire the best architect and have him put up, him or her, put up whatever suite level you want at the Rose Bowl.
What's happening to America?
And also,
you
I
said
heard
him or
Stephen
her?
A. Smith bitching about how long it takes to get to the Rose Bowl, and he was like, "I just sit in traffic for hours, and if they would have given me a helicopter, I would have taken it."
He lives in New York.
You could have been you're just the most unrelatable human being.
Totally.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like the Rose Bowl? Kyle, when Baker Mayfield used to do the commercials
I'll
where
sit
he
in
was
traffic
living
in L.A. all day.
he was living in the Cleveland Stadium. If you gave me a choice of all the stadiums to live in, it's the Rose Bowl. It's the Rose Bowl number one, and then last is
Mine's
Ford
Qualcomm.
Field.
Nobody's there.
Qualcomm's great. Yeah, you could have your own
You park
post-apocalypse.
on hole number 9 at the Rose Bowl.
Really?
It's right. It's literally on a golf course.
So you'd park at the golf course. You could walk outside, hit the links.
Between the
I
trees.
tailgated on a
It's a
green.
beautiful piece of grass.
Never happened. The city of Pasadena will never allow that, though.
Here's the deal, guys. Let me ask you this. We're going into this game. What's on your mind Monday with the college football playoff championship? Me and Macon are going to talk to Steve about it, but I want to hear what you guys think.
Washington, Michigan.
Well, I was privy to my 6-year-old saying that Michigan is playing on a Monday, and M for Michigan, M for Monday.
So it sounds like
That's
So
a
it sounds
smart
we got to
kid.
take Michigan.
that's a smart kid.
Really, yeah.
I just think it's one of those years where the wind is in the sails of the Michigan Wolverines, and I feel like the same can be said for Michael Penix and the Washington Huskies.
Who's the
One of-
team of destiny,
They've
man?
won
you
a
know?
lot of close games, but both these teams have reason to believe that they are the team of destiny.
Can I tell you? Go ahead.
I'm going to be the studio book
Okay.
for this game. I'm going to set the line at 18.5 for pass attempts for Michigan.
And I think that's really interesting. You said that earlier, and I think if Washington covers or wins, that goes over. But the other way, you could almost hedge this thing a little bit.
I'm just laying down one line. You can't.
Yeah.
There's no hedging over here with this book.
No, you're right, guys. Can I tell you something? This is really.
I got Michigan.
This is I got check it out with Steve in a second, but the whole Lank thing, okay, and
Naysayers?
the naysayers thing. I was so petrified of the conversation that I didn't even understand what was happening. The minute I knew that there was a word that might be involved in the bit, I just like didn't even look at the tweets about it. So all this time, I didn't understand that the joke was that Lank actually doesn't stand for let a
I
naysayer
have
know.
all N words muted on Twitter.
Okay, good. Okay, you found a way. Yeah. So
Twitter.
yeah,
Nada.
Kevin doesn't even know what the Lank
What's
thing is.
the Twitters?
Don't even look at
The
it.
Twitters?
Yeah, don't even look at it.
tweets?
But I'm sitting here this morning and I'm like, wait a second. Wait just a minute. Lank doesn't stand for let a naysayer know. I thought that was the joke. Was that
We
like?
get in on some branding, let a cracker know.
Yeah, no,
Lack.
no.
People would buy it.
But I've been on
Let
the
a
outside.
Caucasian know.
Let a Caucasian know.
Caucasian know.
Let a
Let a
Caucasian know.
co-conspirator know.
Anyways, here's Stanford Steve. We're gonna go through our locks and.
Chris.
What?
Chris.
What?
Monday is National Upside Down Day, and a W upside down is an M.
Oh,
So I guess it's Washington.
No!
Oh my God.
Well, what about an M upside
Yeah,
down?
it works
and
both
W?
ways, dude. What are you talking about? You're saying Monday, the day of the week.
But M is Monday. Yeah, Monday would be the W upside down is now the M.
Wolverines. It was always the Wolverines.
All right, well,
Thank you, guys.
here's Steve. Game day is the perfect pizza day. So make Little Caesars the official pizza sponsor of the NFL, part of your game day. Order online during our Pizza pregame 1 hour before and 3 hours after NFL kickoffs, plus all day Sunday. To have your NFL game day covered, choose your favorite Little Caesars pizza or pick the toppings you crave. It's a pizza win. And speaking of winning, everyone scores with convenient delivery or our in-store pizza portal pickup. So grab some friends, order your Little Caesars, and enjoy during the games. Steve, you look like you got some sun, dude. Pink Steve.
Yeah, for as far as we could take it. I did make it a point for the first half while the sun was out at the Rose Bowl to be on the Alabama side because that's where the sun was. And I
Yeah.
figured it was going to be a while till I got some sunshine, but, man, it felt great. The setting there obviously lived up to everything. The game, the uniforms, helmets, pregame. I did notice Michigan tried being the intimidator early, Chris. You'll know this, during pregame, you have your sides of the field, right? And then on the team's sideline, they call it the long side, so the punters could go back to the 40. Mm-hmm. And so on the Alabama sideline, the punter's getting loose, and the receivers come out, and they just line up and catch balls from their coach right in the line of the snap.
Oh, that's
so
beautiful.
It was just not moving. Roman Wilson there, not moving. Alabama coaches got to get the refs involved. So this is 70 minutes before kick. You could already feel the tension of how these guys were going to go at each other. Lived up to the billing. I thought Michigan was damn impressive in what they'd done. I'm sure we'll have more questions about it. But I truly thought the better team won.
Tell me this. What was up with the snaps? Because I asked Cole, and by the way, great job getting us a pinch hitter for you. Cole Kublik was tremendous. I thought they did a great job on the Cube cast, as I'm calling it, Saturday, Monday night with
I don't know what
Washington
day it
and
is
Texas.
either.
Yeah, dude, it's like totally
It's hard.
wacko right now. But what was up with the snaps, dude?
It's been a year-long problem.
I know.
It's amazing to me that a program of that stature has had this issue and dealt with it. And then you see McLaughlin goes right into the portal as soon as he can after the game. So I guess the depth was an issue there, but to constantly deal with that. I mean, you watch Alabama game week after week after week, it was always there. And it's just another factor when you have a quarterback. I said about Jalen Milroe after the loss to Texas. The dude needed reps. So what was he going to get? He was going to get, when he finally got the job, he's going to get reps under fire. And you add to that a pre-snap deal that he has to worry about. That sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. And it hurts your offensive line. It messes up timing there. But most of all, your quarterback, in his eyes, there's certain things you want to see. And if you got to be concentrating, I mean, I'm surprised a couple times his knee didn't go to the ground.
Yeah.
You know how low they were. And then you look at the timing of it. They get the momentum back. They get the lead, they get a first down, and then 2 straight snaps they lose 20 yards. It was really, really costly. But if you watched Alabama all year, you knew it was a problem, and they never overcame it, and it got them in the worst circumstance, even including the last snap of the game.
I think it was amazing to see Harbaugh go backed up. I know that maybe a lot of coaches might do that in today's game of football, but to stare down that moment of truth like that early in the game, right? Relatively speaking, at the end of the game, you didn't punt and say, "Hey, we're going to get 3 stops and get the ball back." You were like, "Hey, it ends now or it doesn't." And I thought that was a huge moment. And just, as somebody who's watched Alabama for years, like them having a 7-point lead in the fourth quarter in that type of ball game and not being able to win it, it says something. And, the depth issues up front that lead to them not being able to. You had a month before the bowl game to figure the snap thing out. They couldn't do it. That tells me something. It to me, it signifies, it's another shred of evidence that tells us the playoffs are going to be more fun in the future because the game has changed. Bama's human. Georgia's still amazing, but they beat Georgia. The parity's pretty good this year. And, if you're Danny Cannell, you're sitting there and saying, "Hey, what about us?" So we're going to be able to find out what about us for a lot of teams the next couple of years, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, again, on Michigan, Chris, going back to the first half, I went back and broke it down, hoping to do a breakdown on game day this week on it. But you go back, they almost get picked off on the first play of the game. They have the fumbled punt. They go down 7-0. And, like, if you didn't have the gold pants on, you might have saw some pee coming down, some of those pants. But that drive, they run the counter toss to Corum where they execute perfectly with an X block with the motion guy, knowing it was going to be man coverage. He takes the outside guy. Wide receiver takes the slot corner, and Corum never breaks stride. That's 21 yards. The next third down, it's 3rd down and 8. They run quarterback run design with an unbelievable crack block on the defensive end, Braswell, who's the strongest guy in Alabama. They get 7 yards, sets up a 4th and 1. They run wedge from the gun and absolutely blow Bama off the ball. The next second down, McCarthy gets out of pressure, throws a dime to Mullings on the sideline, another first down, and then the execution of the I call it tailback opposite for the Corum touchdown. Both tight ends are on the left. They get through that line of scrimmage clean, and that sets up the whole wall where Alabama defenders have to run over, run through, run under, whatever you want. They can't do it. Touchdown, 7-7 game, and then that thing was all Michigan, except for their offense in the third quarter. I thought Bama did a great job in the third quarter, but they couldn't do it when it counted. He didn't have crazy stats. I really was impressed with McCarthy, man. When he needed to make throws, he did. The athleticism to catch that double pass, that's a disaster. And he takes a shot. He wasn't right the last 5 plays after that play, but I really liked what I saw from McCarthy on that stage in that circumstance.
How good a pro is McCarthy?
I heard McShay talking about him on Marcillo's pod. He thinks he's going to get up into that first round, and you watch him, it's hard. Like, he's going to be one. You always heard Todd talk about dissecting the tape and even going furthermore, because now you got to watch what's around him, right? But I also think you also could just take halves of football and throw them out, like at Penn State. Supposedly he got dinged up in the second quarter. They were worried about Chop Robinson against that right tackle. They didn't want to get a strip sack. It was a one-possession game, and they ran the ball. The Iowa game, I think you throw that out where they just started to piece that line together after they lose Zinter against Ohio State. The Ohio State game, I thought he was great with his feet creating throws. His arm strength, I wouldn't say elite, but it's strong. I think his game wherewithal, his awareness is very good. I think he has watching what we are on Sundays the last couple weeks with quarterbacks, I'll take a shot with J.J. McCarthy, no doubt.
So what do you think? Macon, Steve, what do we think Monday night? Because for me, it's really hard. And I kind of hate this for Michigan because, I got nothing against Michigan. I'm really excited to see Michigan in it. I'm excited to see Jim Harbaugh in it. And you're talking to a guy that hated playing him 2 times a year in San Francisco. Is he prickly? Is he a guy that people might not like? Is he a guy that's fucking awkward as hell? Yeah, but I respect him. And I would love to see them in this spot. I wanted to see them in this spot, but against Washington, it's really hard for me to root for Michigan because it's almost like that us against the world team in Michigan with all the stuff they've been dealing with, self-imposed or not. And then the other side of it, it's Washington who feels that they got that team of destiny thing. So, like, who are you rooting for and how do you think it plays out?
I'm a Michigan man, guys. And yet, that trio of receivers, McMillan, Polk, Odunze,
Odunze's insane.
they're too much fun. And I really don't want to have the off season of Connor Stallions. We had the season of Connor Stallions. I don't really want the off season of Connor Stallions. So yeah, I don't think I can't go wrong as a Michigan fan growing up. But I think I might be pulling for the purple and gold, fellas.
I'm pulling for the purple and gold, baby.
The Big Ten team, Washington.
Yeah. A couple things on it. I get where both you guys are coming from. I do not agree with the thinking of Michigan deserves all this sympathy. I think that locker room is just built up differently and knew what they were going to be up against, and you saw them play with that veracity against Alabama. I do like the matchup for Michigan. When you go back and look at it, the way they didn't do anything crazy defensively, disguising stuff. They just, simulated pressure here. Different. They play 8 guys up front, and then you look at Penix, how much time some of these plays have to take to develop. I think Dylan Johnson, the running back, they say he's going to play. I don't think he's going to be 100%. He's been really good for them in pass pro. You need all those things against Michigan because there's the other thing. Alabama didn't have 1 yard gained by a receiver after a catch in that game. That tells me 2 things. The throws weren't great and accurate, and also Michigan does a hell of a job tackling. And sometimes you think, it's that old saying that it looks like they have more than 11 guys on the field, but they are great communicating. I think they play great together. Again, I think it's hard to do in this day and age when you play so many guys up front and having so many guys on the same page. So I like Michigan. I think their offense will be effective enough to keep Washington's defense, who, again, I thought was the most under-talked about unit in the whole playoff, and they did enough to win. They made a play at the end of the game to get it. Should they have been in that spot? You could go back and do clock management, all that, whatever. They were in that spot, and they made the play at the end with their defense. So I think it's a lot on Washington's defense again. I think the other thing too, Chris, is literally a week in between. Not an extra day here, not 2 days extra. Like, it is a straight game week with this game of the magnitude, and both those games were as taxing as I can remember. When you're talking about what's at stake, what's ahead of you, what you had to put into this game, I think the start of this game, if Washington can ever, hit a couple things early and get Michigan maybe on their heels, that's a big thing because, as we've seen, Michigan's comfortable in a tight game. Washington has lived in tight games. So I think the start of this game is enormous, but right now I lean Michigan because of the totality of what they bring up front. I get it. Washington won the Joe Moore Award. They deserved it. But this is a whole different animal when you're talking about the stakes and how many guys that they're going to see.
Yeah, I think my biggest question is this, Steve, and I'm just going back through some of the college football finals and wondering because I would lean Washington to cover at least, and I'm rooting for them to win because of the quarterback. I think, Penix, people seen it all year, but you get a chance to see that guy on the national stage. It kind of reminds you of the C.J. Stroud thing where, yeah, C.J. Stroud had to change the way he played a little bit because of who they were playing, and he delivered on the big stage. Penix has been this guy all year, right? Like he's made throws like this all year, and people just got to see it because of the Pac-12 thing. I think, there's a lot of people that don't watch those games. I look at this game and I say, who's the better quarterback? But then I look at every college football playoff championship, and that's not always the thing that plays out. Stetson Bennett, for instance, there's all types of situations over the past 5-7 years where the guy that went on to be the better pro didn't win the game. And so, I'm not so sure, but I would lean Washington.
Okay. I get it. Again, I just feel like they're going to get pretty public. Also,
No question. So I'm not going to be going big
you.
on this thing.
No. I get what you're coming from. Again, can they do it for a full 60 if Michigan makes them one-dimensional? That's the one thing. Now, I will say this. Inside, no conditions, that offense is pretty damn scary when you look at what they've done the last 2 games. I forgot, is Energy Field back to turf, grass?
I think it was grass when I played there.
I think it's grass. So
yeah, I think it's grass.
I think that's an advantage for Michigan. But, again, Penix on this stage, and I think he was dinged up, after that Oregon game. I think the receivers, you saw them not be able – they do an unbelievable job with that. I call it bunches. The trips, trip bunches with the guy in line of scrimmage, and what guy motions, the different pattern combos they run off of that. And they do a great job with their quick screen games. I forgot. Oh, I was listening to their offensive coordinator talk about the game against Texas and how do you offset the defensive tackles. All right, we're going to throw a quick screen, and they're not going to run sweep or jet sweep. We're just going to throw it out there and make them run and get it. And Washington does a great job of always getting – they never lose. Sometimes you see those plays get blown up by great corner play, and Michigan has that. But Washington's done a great job of always getting positive yards on those kind of plays. So that's like a little matchup inside the game where I think if Michigan blows them up, is it 2nd and 11, or does Washington get a couple where it's 2nd and 6? Those are the things where I think you add up. But I'm really being impressed in person, for the Ohio State game and the Rose Bowl with Minter, the DC for Michigan. They do a really, really good job because it's not crazy complicated, but they are effective and they are so damn aggressive that they make you make decisions really quick, and we'll see if Panic is ready for that.
Steve, who are going to be the best 3 players on the field Monday night?
Odunze for sure. Probably Penix and Will Johnson, the Michigan corner.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the side of the ball that's going to decide the game, right? You just mentioned it. And if you probably went to the 4th best player, you might be staying on the Michigan defensive side of the ball.
Correct.
Or you might say Blake Corum's in there somewhere. But the bottom line is, and I thought, and it's the last thing we'll say because we got to get to locks, but, I thought Penix in that game, not knowing a ton about their offensive line, but knowing that he hasn't taken that many sacks, you wonder what would happen when the rubber met the road and you play those big guys inside for Texas and you talk about the negative plays. Texas actually took the negative plays throughout the night. And so I think that's a great point. Washington stays on schedule and somehow Penix has not been sacked a ton, and the test is going to be a big one. So let's talk about these locks. And I was just alerted today, guys, don't kill the messenger. These guys behind the cameras said, are we doing locks through the playoffs? And I said, what did we do last year? And they said, we did locks through the playoffs. So I didn't know that, and I was about to concede.
We had talked about. I think Steve brought that up a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
When he was down, and he confirmed that we were doing it through the playoffs. So
great. It's good to not be out of it. I almost had the clean sweep. Macon and I were texting Sunday night, Minnesota and Green Bay. And I swear, dude, that over should have hit. I was trying to fade Macon. Macon got that under in before the Jaron Hall announcement and got that W. So Macon and Steve still in the lead at 28.
So you guys went 2-1. I went 1-2.
No, Macon went 1-2. You went 1-2. I went 2-1. And if it hadn't been for that damn fade pick.
How about the Bengals not covering? Come on.
Now, Chris, when I looked at the doc last night, it said Steve had gone 0-3.
That's incorrect.
Yeah, because he did hit the under on the Saints and the and the Bucs. I was eyeballing this stuff because I was really hoping to go for a 3-0 and then an 0-3 from you guys, and I'd be right back in it. But little did I know there's a precedent for continuing on into 2024. So I'm alive, baby.
Hold on now a minute, player. Yeah. I'm not done with what I had to say. I then alerted the crew that there had been a mistake, and I said that Steve's record needed to reflect 28, 22, and 1. not 27, 23-1. It was a reporting that harmed me. I think win, lose, or draw, I should at least be awarded the Lady Bing award for this particular competition.
Send you a nice pat on the back.
It's a sportsmanship award.
Yeah. Don't break your arm patting yourself on the back.
No, but you know what? That is out of character, and you should pat yourself on the back for that, Macon. So let's start out with the bottom dweller for now, who's hot, boy. He was hot
boy.
this weekend.
How about some of these lines, though? Come on.
Oh, this is a fun weekend.
This is unreal.
I am far from short on games that I want to play this weekend. I looked up last night. I'm like, you have put 10 bets in, okay? And one of them I put in twice, okay? I put it in. And then I was like, you know what? I like it so much, I'm going to put it in again, and that's the New England Patriots. I don't care if the line's 7. I got the Pats. Bills last game. We'll talk about it in the previews, but I got the Pats. And not necessarily Bills last game, but just in case. And it's the Jets. I got the Pats.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to go I'm going to do another total. I may be unbeaten in totals. I'm going Vegas. I'm going Denver, and I'm going under.
That's a good call.
What do you got there? 38.5. Ooh, that's high. Huh.
What is my number?
38.
38. So he's got Vegas and Denver under 38. What you got, Steve-O?
I'm going to take – they've been as good to me as anybody. I'm sticking with them. They're an underdog. Green Bay's got stuff to play for. Give me the Bears. They won 4 or 5. They're averaging over 27 points a game in those 5 games. I love what they bring to the table. My man Flus getting it right, and Fields is playing great. So all the pressure's on the Packers. We know the history of it. Give me the Bears.
You keeping Fields? We just got done talking about this.
I knew I was going to have to answer this if I gave the Bears.
It's a simple question, Steve.
I know, but it's a really, really. I think
deal.
it's a hard answer because I have been invested with Fields back to his Ohio State days.
Yeah.
But you have Caleb Williams, and like I said, I thought I said on this pod, can we just draft both quarterbacks?
Well, that's what we said too. That's what we said too. So anyway,
they have all
good.
3, and now you're really set up.
Now you're set up. So and we know how the 2 quarterback system works every time. Works great. All right. So, anyways, I'll go 2. I thought this would be gone by now, but give me the. You know what? Give me the Bills. Give me the Bills, fellas. Give me the Bills. Minus 3, dude. Circle the wagons for Boomer.
All right. Hey, you know Ernst & Young, the accounting firm? We've got Ernst & Dumb over here, all right? Trying to give my man Steve an 0-3 week for crying out loud. I'll take the one you thought was going to be gone, Chris. The Detroit Lions. And I'll buy the half point to 3.
I didn't think that was going to be gone. That's not on my list. Okay, so, Steve, you're up. Pick 2.
I know they don't have Lamar playing. Give me the Ravens +4.
I love that pick. Love it.
Give it to me. They're not giving in against
Steelers.
the Steelers
Are going to be totally public unless they want to give in against the Steelers to eliminate Josh Allen. Not that that's a certainty at that juncture on Sunday, but okay. My third pick, and I am torn here. I've got a total that I love that I'll tell you about in a moment, but I'm going to take the Titans, and I'm going to buy to 6. I absolutely love this play. When
6.
Mike Vrabel was asked about it, Mike Vrabel said, we're not worried about it being the last game of the season. It just sucks to lose. So that's what motivates us. And I think he wants to put all that suck on Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson.
Okay. All right. You know, Dallas isn't playing until later, so Detroit's going to have to win the game.
No question. They're going to be playing hard. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
How'd that go the last time they played? It was kind of tight, wasn't it?
Yeah. But they're all pissed off, you know?
Okay, got it.
They got some suck to get off themselves.
Yeah, you got to get the suck off, yeah.
All right. I'm going to the desert. Arizona, Seattle, over.
Icky, dude. How many people?
48 points.
Wow.
Over.
You've got some of the ickiest least bet games, which is a great strategy. Vegas and Denver and Arizona, Seattle.
Yep.
All right, Steve-O, what you got?
I'm looking at the Rams-Niner game, and I hate to say it because both guys have had their time, but I'd love to get an over-under in pick sixes in this game between Sam Darnold and Carson Wentz.
2? 1.5? 1.5?
I'll take the over on 1.5.
Okay.
I just feel it, and I'm leaning the over. I don't want that.
So Carson's throwing 2? Because Darnold's the next quarterback for somebody next year, dude. I'm telling you.
Come on.
I like Darnold.
I do too. I love the guy. Came in against Baltimore. You're like, all right, here we go. Got a chance. Then a pick.
Yeah. Well.
Man, these quarterback matchups, these totals, good for you guys having confidence. Give me the Raiders at home -3.
Okay.
All righty. Hey, here's
like
the
that.
total. This is the total of the week in my book. Isn't obviously something I'm giving out because I'm out of wins here. But Texans Colts over 47,
I
over
wanted to
47 and a
ask you guys
half.
about that.
I'm already on that. I think
Is that
some
the
other,
one you bet twice?
No, the one I bet twice was the Pats. I'm the biggest Pats fan in the world this weekend. Do it for Bill.
If
Okay.
Pats played the Eagles, you're rooting for the Pats this week. Got it.
Probably. I mean, if the Cowboys are going to drag the Commanders, I just don't want to see Bill go out a loser if he's going out. And I know he wants to beat the damn Jets. And so, think about this one. He wants to be the coach for the Commanders. If that's a possibility, this is a tailor-made Lovie Smith special. If Lovie Smith could do it, what do you think? Do you think Bill could do it? Bill's going to do it.
Okay.
All right. So I'm buying my half point with the Titans. Macon's bought his half point with the Lions, and Steve has bought his half point
He
where?
hasn't bought one yet, yeah. And Steve, I got Raiders at -2.5, so you get an extra half point there.
The Bears are going to win this game.
I'll take the
or
Bears.
they're not.
Bears plus 3.5, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I love me some Bears. I might be a Bears fan.
I might buy the Ravens to the 4, but you think the Ravens are going to win the game, 4.5. All right, so Steve, thank you. I had this whole guys, the locks have been fun. I don't think they fully reflect my gambling prowess. The whole thing, you guys are lucky. Macon just looks at survivor pools and fades whatever the most public pick is, and it's been fun. But actually, we get to keep going.
Yeah.
All right,
Wait,
so
hold
I'll
on.
see you guys next week. Same time, same place.
Super Bowl week. Do we come up with 3 picks somehow? Or
Yep.
what-
No,
how-
Yeah,
I think
props.
didn't we stop? Where did we stop last year?
We did Super Bowl last year.
Oh, we did Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Get some
We'll
props,
do it
right?
live. All right.
Get some exotics. Is Virginia playing hoops that day? Get them in.
Maybe.
Get them
Get
involved.
some exotics in. Speaking of exotics, that's Stanford Steve signing off. Steve, it's been fun.
I can't wait to get to Houston and hear all the hello Houston or whatever jokes there are.
Shout out to the branch.
Shout out to the branch as always.
All right. Take
Macon,
care.
I miss you. I love you.
I miss you and I love you, Steve.
Go Duke.
Take care.
Fuck off.